Hello, everyone. It is October 11th, 2021. Today's afternoon devotional and Bible study. I am coming at you from kind of our game room and Bible room and kind of Bible study room in our house. It's coming at you guys a little bit late. We had a little bit of family time earlier on today where we got to go up and visit my mom, and we brought her outside. It was a beautiful day. It was really, really nice. But unfortunately that meant this got bumped all the way till now. So I am sorry for the inconvenience for anyone that was kind of expecting me to do it earlier on today. But, you know, here we are now.
So I am sorry for
sorry.
today.
I am also, because I'm at home on my computer, I can monitor text and stuff like that. Messages that come in live. So I got my computer and everything on, and I'm also watching Why You Chat right now. So after this is done, if you need to talk to someone anonymously, whyouchat.ca, you can call or you can text in. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump in to October 11th. Jesus is calling. I am the culmination of all your hopes and desires. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. Who is and was and is to come. Before you knew me, you expressed your longing for me in hurtful ways. You were always so vulnerable to the evil around you in the world. But now my presence safely shields you, enfolding you in my loving arms. I have lifted you out of darkness and into my marvelous light. Though I have brought many pleasures into your life, not one of them is essential. Receive my blessing with open hands. Enjoy my good gifts, but do not cling to them. Turn your attention to the giver of all good things and rest in the knowledge that you are complete in me. The one thing you absolutely need is the one thing you can never lose: my presence with you. And that was inspired by 4 different sections of the Bible. The first is, find rest, O my soul, in God alone. My hope comes from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will not be shaken. My salvation and my honor depend on God. He is my mighty rock, my refuge. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your hearts to him, for God is our refuge. Psalm 62, 5-8. I am the Alpha and the Omega, says the Lord, who is and who was and who is to come, the Almighty. Revelations 1:8. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. 1 Peter 2:19. And then lastly, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. James 1:17. And that's kind of like how God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. But yes, that promise that nothing we do will separate us from God's love and his presence in our life. He is with us. He loves us. He knows us, and he will never leave us. Hey, Sarah, welcome. Glad that you could join. Just a quick question. How does the mic sound? I am using my lapel mic again. I've moved it down a little bit because I realized last time it may have been a little bit too much. But in my sound checks and everything today, this sounded a lot better. I invite you to open up your Bible to 2 Kings chapter 23. So we talked about Josiah and his rule in Judah. For some reason, I could not pronounce that name, and I just kind of went in a different route last time. I think I said Joshai or something, but Josiah. And we read a bit about how Hekai discovered the scroll that had God's law in it. And we talked about how crazy it is that, for most of human history, they did not have access to the Bible. Most people around the world did not have access to the Bible in their own language. And how cool it is that we have this, that we can read this, that we can dig into this. And I just thought that was really awesome. So now we're going to talk about Josiah's religious reforms and his reaction to finding God's law, and how he dealt with it. One of the other things that we talked about was how Josiah repented when he realized what he was doing was wrong. When he got confronted with the sin that he was allowing and continuing to allow and that he was taught, he repented and God forgave. And God can forgive you too, and he wants to forgive you. If we remember what we were reading in Ezekiel, God does not desire the wicked to be destroyed, but to turn from their wickedness and to follow him. So, that is where we are. Thank you for letting me know that the audio is better today. I appreciate that. Take a second, if you can, to look at the sky right now. It is a beautiful kind of like pinks and blues and grays and blue and whatnot. It looks awesome right now. So you're not going to be able to tell from this, but I think it looks pretty nice. Anyways, all right. Let's jump into the book of 2 Kings, chapter 23. Then the king summoned all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem, and the king went up to the temple of the Lord with all the people of Judah and Jerusalem, along with the priests and the prophets. The people from the least to the greatest. There the king read to them the entire book of the covenant that had been found in the Lord's temple. The king took his place of authority beside the pillar and renewed the covenant in the Lord's presence. He pledged to obey the Lord by keeping all his commands, laws, and decrees with all his heart and soul. In this way, he confirmed all the terms of the covenant that were written in the scroll, and all the people pledged themselves to that covenant. Then the king instructed Hilkiah, the high priest, and the priests from the second rank and the temple gatekeepers to remove from the Lord's temple all the articles that were used to worship Baal, Asherah, and all the powers of heavens. The king had all these things burned outside Jerusalem on the terrace of the Kidron Valley, and he carried the ashes away to Bethel. He did away with the idolatrous priests who had been appointed by the previous kings of Judah, for they had offered sacrifices at the pagan shrines throughout Judah and even in the vicinity of Jerusalem. They had also offered sacrifices to Baal and to the sun and the moon and the constellations and all the powers of heaven. The king removed the Asherah poles from the Lord's temple and took it outside Jerusalem to the Kidron Valley, where he burned it. Then he ground the ashes of the poles to dust and threw the dust over the graves of the people. He also tore down the living quarters of the male and female shrine prostitutes that were inside the temple of the Lord, where the women wove coverings for the Assyrian pole. Josiah brought to Jerusalem all the priests who were living in their own towns of Judah. He also defiled the pagan shrines where they had offered sacrifices all the way from Gibeah to Beersheba. He destroyed the shrines at the entrance to the gate of Joshua, the governor of Jerusalem. This gate was located to the left of the city gate as one enters the city. The priests who had served at the pagan shrines were not allowed to serve at the Lord's altar in Jerusalem, but they were allowed to eat unleavened bread with the other priests. Then the king defiled the altar of Topheth in the valley of Ben Hinnom, so no one could ever again use it to sacrifice a son or daughter in the fire as the offering to Moloch. He removed from the entrance of the Lord's temple the horse statues that the former kings of Judah had dedicated to the sun. They were near the quarters of Nathan Melch, the eunuch, and the officer of the court. The king also burned the chariots dedicated to the sun. Josiah tore down the altars that the kings of Judah had built on the palace roof above the upper room of Ahaz. The king destroyed the altar of Manasseh. I'm going to restart that sentence. Sorry. The king destroyed the altars that Manasseh had built in the two courtyards of the Lord's temple. He smashed them to bits and scattered the pieces in the Kedron Valley. The king also desecrated the pagan shrines east of Jerusalem to the south of Mount Corruption, where King Solomon of Israel had built shrines for Ashtaroth, the detestable goddess of the Sidonians, and for Chemosh, the detestable god of the Moabites, and for Moloch, the vile god of the Amorites. He smashed the sacred pillars and cut down the Asherah poles. Then he desecrated the places by scattering human bones over them. The king also tore down the altar at Bethel, the pagan shrine that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had made when he caused Israel to sin. He burned down the shrine and ground it to the dust, and burned the Asherah pole. Then Josiah turned around and noticed several tombs in the side of the hill. He ordered the bones to be brought out, and he burned them on the altar of Bethel to desecrate it. This happened just as the Lord had promised through a man of God, where Jeroboam stood beside the altar at the festival. Then Josiah turned, looked up at the tomb of the man of God who had predicted these things. "What is that a monument over there?" Josiah asked. And the people of the town told him, "It is the tomb of the man of God who came from Judah and predicted the very things that have just done to the altar of Bethel." Josiah replied, "Leave it alone. Don't disturb his bones." So they did not burn his bones or those of the old prophet from Samaria. Then Josiah demolished all the buildings at the pagan shrines in the towns of Samaria, just as he has done at Bethel. They had been built by various kings of Israel and had made the Lord very angry. He executed the priests of the pagan shrines on the very own altars. He burned human bodies over the altars to desecrate them. Finally, he returned to Jerusalem. Continuing verse 21. Josiah celebrates Passover. King Josiah then issued this order to all the people: "You must celebrate the Passover to the Lord your God, as required in the book of the covenant." There had not been Passover celebration like this since the time when the judges ruled in Israel, nor throughout all the years of the kings of Israel and Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah's reign, this Passover was celebrated to the Lord in Jerusalem. Josiah also got rid of the mediums, the psychics, and the household gods, the idols, and every other kind of detestable practice, both in Jerusalem and throughout the land in Judah. He did this in obedience to the laws written in the scroll that Micaiah, the priest, had found in the Lord's temple. Never before had there been a king like Josiah, who turned to the Lord with all the hearts and soul and strength, obeying all the laws of Moses, and there has never been a king like him since. Even so, the Lord was very angry with Judah because of all the wicked things Messiah had done to provoke him. For the Lord said, "I will also banish Judah from my presence, just as I have banished Israel, and I will reject my chosen city of Jerusalem and the temple where my name was to be honored." The rest of the events of Josiah's reign and all his deeds are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. Sorry, I didn't realize that my phone had tilted. Continuing, verse 29. When Josiah was king, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went to the Euphrates River to help the king of Assyria, king of Judah. King Josiah. His army had marched out to fight him, but the king Necho killed him when he met at the Megiddo. Josiah's officers took his body back to the chariots from Megiddo to Jerusalem and buried him in his own tomb. Then the people of the land anointed Josiah's son Jehoahaz and made him the next king. Sorry. For some reason, my one thing ended up messing up. So give me a second. I'm just making sure that I'm still there. Yeah, things still are looking good. Good. All right. Awesome. Continuing from verse 31. Jehoshaphat rules in Judah. Jehoshaphat was 23 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. His mother was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah from Lebna. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, just as his ancestors had done. Pharaoh Necho put Jehoahaz in prison at Riblah in the land of Hamath to prevent him from ruling in Jerusalem. He also demanded that Judah pay 7,500 pounds of silver and 75 pounds of gold as tribute. Jehoiakim rules in Judah. Pharaoh Necho then installed Elohim, another of Josiah's sons, to reign in place of his father, and he changed Elohim's name to Jehoiakim. Jehoahaz was taken to Egypt as a prisoner, where he died. In order to get the silver and gold demanded as tribute by Pharaoh Necho, Jehoiakim collected a tax from the people of Judah, requiring them to pay in portion to their wealth. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. His mother was Zebdah, the daughter of Pedah from Ramah. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, just as his ancestors had done. May God add a blessing to the reading of his word. So this is a bit of an interesting one and a bit of a sad one. And I think we're going to see some things play out very interesting in the next few chapters. We'll wait and see. But we see all the hard work that King Josiah did to bring Israel, to bring Judah and all of its people back to God. So we see God accept King Josiah's plea for forgiveness. God forgives him. But sadly, his sons are still pursuing what's evil, listening to all these other things. They're seeing everything that was going around them. And they're like, well, Dad must be crazy for doing all of these things and bringing things through. I mean, he still passed away. So let's start worshiping other gods. Let's start doing this other stuff. Let's start doing this. Let's, get back in good graces with Pharaoh. And once again, when they take their eyes off of God, they start doing what's evil in the Lord's sight once again. So even though all the hard work that Josiah did to bring everyone back to God, it all kind of fell apart. And it's that reminder that even though when we have loved ones, we can't force them to follow God. We can't force them to do what's right. You can't force someone to forgive. You can't force someone to do what's right. But we can pray for them. And that great reminder that God forgave King Josiah. And that he started correcting his ways, and he did everything that he could to kind of correct things, to bring Israel back. And they lost their customs along the ways with all these evil kings. They put these things on the shrines, and they forgot how to pray. They forgot the Passover. The Passover is so significantly important to the Israelite people. It's how they got out of Egypt, and it's this big, big deal, especially today. And somehow they had forgotten it. And as we're getting ready to finish up the book of Kings, we can look back on the history of Kings and how it all started with Israel demanding to have a king. We don't want to just follow you, Lord. We need this physical representation here on earth. And we need to have a ruler to protect us. Look at what all these other nations are doing. Look at what they're doing. Look what they're doing. Look at what they're doing. Lord, we need a king. And God says, fine, if this is what you want. And he gives in to the wants of the people. And he tries to put in good kings along the way, and these families, and he works, and he forgives, and he forgives, and he forgives, and he forgives. But he takes things very seriously too. And these people have now put people in front of God. And we see the twists and the turns and the heartache and the pain that comes from it. Not only does it pain God, but now they're sacrificing their kids to other gods. They're looking in so many other places for answers that they lose the most significant parts of the story. They lose the story and the history that they had as they were in Egypt, conquered, slaves, and finally they get set free and they wander the desert, and then they establish these kingdoms, and they lose their history, and they lose their story, and they forget how to worship. They forget the Passover, which is so significant. It's where Jesus does his big stuff, where it all comes back again. Like, Jesus and the Passover are super significant together, and it's where now Christians, we celebrate the Passover in a different way. We celebrate it as Christ dying and coming back from the dead, him conquering death. Passover is super, super significant, and they forgot it. even the good kings forgot it. And then his sons, they don't follow in his footsteps. They don't learn the good lessons. Instead, they learn the bad lessons. And they continue on with that. So once again, as we are looking at kings, we want to find people in good authority that care and that want to lead us in the right direction, not to lift themselves up, but for your benefit, for God's benefit. And we want to remind ourselves that yes, we can be forgiven. We can be forgiven. We are forgiven. And help us to find those good leaders to follow and to have those good lessons be what we carry through to the next. And when we get confronted with sin that is going on in our lives, that we can do what's necessary to help purify ourselves from that. And sometimes it can be a painful process. Let's pray. AJC, awesome Jesus Christ, I thank you so much for the book of 2 Kings and the book of 1 Kings and everything that we read today, and King Josiah and his reign and how he brought Judah back to worshiping you. And it only lasted for a generation before evil kind of came back up again. But Lord, help us as individuals not feel like we have to force our family, our friends, and our loved ones to follow you. But let you speak through us. You shine through us. Make them work on their hearts to want to follow you, Lord. To embrace you. To be loved by you and to receive that love. And when you point out and confront sin in our lives, Lord, help us to do as King Josiah and try to purify our lives. Try to rid ourselves of those evil things of the past. And that is a lot of hard work, Lord. It is a lot of hard work. And bring us right leaders and help us to learn the right lessons. Lord, thank you for guiding us, directing us, and loving us. Today is a pretty significant day for my family in a lot of different ways, Lord. And I pray for comfort and your presence in their lives. And Lord, as you know, today's also a day of Thanksgiving. Let us be thankful for everything that you've been doing in our lives up to this point. That we are still here, that we have survived a global pandemic that seems to be on its way out, Lord. We survived something that is made up of it's something from the movies, a tragedy that we never really think that would happen in our lifetimes, and we're coming out the other side. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's hope that we did it and that we survived this pandemic, Lord. Thank you. I thank you for this Bible study, this time that we can spend to focus on you and your word. That people from not only a bunch of different age ranges, not only from around Orangeville, but from around the world. So people whose native languages aren't even English have tuned in to hear, to read, to encounter you, Lord. And I thank you so much that you could use this platform and this dyslexic, really bad reader who couldn't even read Josiah as Josiah last time. You use even me. So Lord, may you use my weakness to encourage others that you can use them in their weaknesses and in their strengths. And I thank you for all the ways that you love us, you guide us, you direct us, you protect us. You protect us, Lord. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In your name. Amen. All right, guys. Thank you very, very much once again for joining me. Have a fantastic day. And later. Bye.